Mr. Chair. Last week, the Senate Finance Committee Republicans released their section of the big ugly bill that guts the Inflation Reduction Act energy tax credits. These tax credits are vitally important not only to economic competitiveness, but in keeping energy bills affordable for end users. And slashing them could increase Americans' utility bills by over $400 each year. The Senate version of that section creates an unfair cliff that only applies to wind and solar energy, undercutting Republican claims to support an all-of-the-above energy strategy. It imposes restrictions on power plants receiving tax credits that target embedded materials that come from foreign entities of concern, which are mainly China, but also a few other countries. And the Senate bill phases in supply chain restrictions, mandating that certain percentages of materials cannot be tied in any way to a country like China, down to every bolt and screw. Many experts have pointed out that the language is sloppy and unclear, either by design or by mistake. And in practice, it could be impossible for projects to demonstrate compliance with the restrictions, even if every critical component were made in America. And yet, the Senate Republicans think that that type of restriction is a good idea. Now, I'm not opposed to scrutinizing where we source components for energy infrastructure, but any restrictions need to be applied fairly and consistently, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if we have these foreign entities of concern standards for clean energy, they should also apply to fossil energy. Currently, the U.S. relies much more on fossil energy than clean energy, and so Republicans should be even more worried about China and other nations of concern being involved in the supply chain for the fossil energy infrastructure. So that's what this amendment addresses by applying the same foreign entity restrictions that the Senate bill puts on clean energy facilities to LNG facilities. LNG facilities would still operate if they meet the restrictions. They just wouldn't get access to the special permitting structure that the bill creates if they're owned by a foreign entity of concern or received material assistance from one in their construction or operation. So this is just simply making the same standards apply across the board. If Republicans believe that the LNG value chain from bolt to liquefaction technology to the pipelines doesn't have a trace of foreign entity of concern, then this amendment should be easy to support. If the Republicans are worried about foreign entities in the LNG value chain, then they would want to incentivize companies to reshore supply chains in America. So I'm just trying to make this language consistent across the board for both LNG and for clean energy. And with that, I yield back.